For years, we've all kind of accepted it as fact, right? The iPhone has the best smartphone camera. It's simple, it's reliable, it just works. But what if I told you that's all a carefully crafted story? We're about to dive into a source that argues the iPhone camera's biggest strength is actually its greatest weakness. And wow, the author does not pull any punches. They come right out and say the iPhone isn't a camera, but a click box that treats you like an idiot. The whole idea here is that Apple is so focused on making a simple, foolproof experience that it completely strips away the creative control that real photography is all about. So this really brings us to the big question we're exploring today. Has Apple's obsession with simplicity actually hurt photography? By making it so easy, have they made it less powerful for people who actually know what they're doing? Let's dig into what the source has to say. First up, let's talk about that magic word, simplicity. It's Apple's #1 selling point. But according to this perspective, simplicity might just be a nice way of saying you have no control. So here's the big idea from the source. Apple's simplicity is like a gilded cage. It looks great, but it makes all the creative decisions for you. You know, what if you want to slow down the shutter speed to get those cool light trails from cars at night? Or maybe you want to manually adjust the ISO for a grainy artistic look. Well, on an iPhone, those basic controls are either totally hidden or they just don't exist. Now, sure, this approach pretty much guarantees a decent-looking shot for just about anyone. But the argument here is that this safety net ends up strangling any real creative freedom. And this right here really shows you the split in thinking. If you want to shoot professional-looking video on an iPhone, you almost always have to go out and buy a third-party app just to unlock manual controls. But the source points to phones like Sony's Xperia, which come with an app like Cinema Pro built right in, giving you that total control straight out of the box. I love this analogy from the source. It just kind of says it all. The iPhone is a tricycle. It's safe, it's simple, you're probably not going to crash it. Android flagships, on the other hand, are more like Formula One cars. They're built for pure performance and control. And the author's point is that even if you're not a pro racer, having access to those pro tools is what helps you grow and get better shots in the first place. All right, let's switch gears and talk about the hardware itself. Remember for years when the official line was that megapixels don't really matter? Well, the rest of the market has definitely moved on, and the numbers, they tell a very, very different story. So, Apple finally got with the program and put a 48 megapixel sensor in its Pro model iPhones. And yeah, that's a big jump from the 12 megapixels they were using for what felt like forever, right? But here's the thing. In the wider world of smartphones, 48 megapixels is kind of just the price of entry now. You've got Android flagships from companies like Samsung packing 200 megapixel sensors. That's more than 4 times the amount of detail. And it's not just a fight at the very top end. This chart makes it super clear. You can see that even a mid-range Android phone like a Redmi Note Pro can have more than double the megapixels of a top-of-the-line iPhone. The source uses this to argue that Apple isn't just falling behind its main rivals, it's lagging behind the entire market. But here's the real kicker. According to the source, if you want to actually get that full 48 megapixel quality from your iPhone, you have to shoot in Pro RAW. And if you've ever done that, you know these files are absolutely enormous. They will fill up your phone's storage in no time. So what Apple markets as this amazing Pro feature is, in the author's opinion, actually a practical limitation that makes it almost useless for most people. Okay, so we've talked philosophy, we've talked hardware, but how does all of this actually shake out in the real world? Well, the source gives a perfect little story that illustrates the difference. So picture this. It's a classic camera test. You're trying to take a portrait of someone at dusk. The lighting is getting tricky, it's low. It's exactly the kind of situation where automatic settings can really struggle, and having manual control is everything. And the results couldn't have been more different. The iPhone, in its attempt to get rid of digital noise, just went overboard and smoothed the person's face until they looked, and I'm quoting here, like a wax doll. But on the Android phone, a Vivo in this case, the photographer was able to just manually lower the ISO, and boom, they got a sharp, natural-looking portrait that actually preserved the detail in their skin. And that right there brings us to what the author calls their knockout punch. One phone made an automatic decision that frankly ruined the photo. The other one provided the tools to save it. And as they put it, that's the difference between the tool and the toy. So, after all that, what's the final verdict? Well, according to this source, the iPhone camera is ultimately for consumers, not for creators. Let's break down exactly what they mean by that.
The author lays out what they call 3 fundamental creators' rights: having a real pro mode with full manual control, having a powerful zoom that isn't just a digital trick, and having the freedom to control your own image quality and file size. Their argument is pretty simple. On Android, these things are often standard. On iOS, they feel more like afterthoughts or compromises.
And so we end on this final, pretty provocative question from the source. It's really designed to make you look at your own phone and think. Is it a tool that actually empowers your creativity and respects your skill? Or is it more of a digital babysitter that's just there to make all the important decisions for you? It's a fascinating thought to keep in mind next time you pull out your phone to take a picture.